book review, I have a very, very good book. And the book that I have is, I'm kind of rushed on this because I'm choosing to do this late at night before I have to go work tomorrow. Isn't that a shocker? But for today's book, I have a very good book. And if you wonder, I recently did a review on a book called Rework. And when you wonder how to get things done in a day and wonder how to fit everything in, like your free time, your family time, or time to relax, and you're wondering how to fit all that in, part of the reason people burn out on that relaxing time to do anything. But have you ever thought of that? So something that I've thought of is, have you ever thought of the way that you work? Have you ever thought of how you work? How quickly you work? How efficient you work? Have you ever thought of, well, why don't I just make a schedule and do that and follow that schedule so not everything's all over the place? Well, the book I have for us today is called Rework by Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen. I don't think I pronounced that right, but now this was actually, when I got into self-betterment, this was the very first book that I ever read, ever. And I read this book like probably going on 6 years ago. And what's crazy is I remember what I underlined, I remember what it's about, but my journey into self-betterment was was through this book. I just saw it on Instagram one day and I'm like, oh, you know what, I'll order this. And you probably heard that story on a different video, but seriously though, this is the very first book I read when I entered the self-betterment world. So, now, since we're on a little bit of a schedule, we're going to dive into the book here. We're going to dive into the beginning called Make a Dent in the Universe. Make a Dent in the Universe on page 31. So listen to this. To do great work, you need to feel that you're making a difference. That you're putting meaningful dent in the universe. That you're part of something important. This doesn't mean you need to find the cure for cancer. It's just that your efforts need to feel valuable. You want your customers to say, this makes my life better. You want to feel that if you stop doing what you do, people would notice. You should feel an urgency about this too. You don't have forever. This is your life's work. Do you want to build just another Me Too product, or do you want to shake things up? What you do is your legacy. Don't sit around and wait for someone else to make the change you want to see. And don't think it takes a huge team to make that difference either. Look at Craigslist, which demolished the traditional classified ad business. With just a few dozen employees, the company generates tens of millions in revenue, has one of the most popular sites on the internet, and disrupted the entire newspaper business. So think about that for a second. Not the Craigslist part, but what I just read. Do you want to build just another Me Too product, or do you want to shake things up? What you do is your legacy. Don't sit around and wait for someone else to make the change you want to see. And don't think it takes a huge team to make that difference either. It's just that your efforts need to feel valuable. I like better. You want to feel that if you stop doing what you do, people would notice. To do great work, you need to feel that you're making a difference. So when it comes to doing great work, a very good example is at your job. If you are making a difference at your job, people might not give you compliments, and people might not notice you or give you a high five or something, or your boss might not notice, but if you really think about it, the difference would be, think of how fast you're moving, think about how you're putting stuff away, and just really think about how the day is going, and how to work, and just bring up ideas to your people so you can have just bring ideas up so you can move quicker and get work done faster so you guys can talk to each other and socialize. And speaking of socialize, I do believe that in a work environment, you don't have to be friends with people, but you do have to get along with people. Like, I had a boss I never got along with, and then I was there at this particular job for over a year, and then I accepted the fact that he's not going to change and we're never going to get along. And he put no effort into getting along. And then when that happens, I chose to quit that job because there was only 2 other people that I worked with. It was just him and the other guy wasn't much better. Now my new job, I'm surrounded by 40 or 50 other people that are much better and much nicer to talk to. That's not the point. The point is, you don't have to talk to those people. Now you have to be nice to them, you have to help them out when they want it, but you do not have to have a nice conversation with those people. The other thing that I mentioned is, it's just that your efforts need to feel valuable. So when your efforts need to feel valuable, all the effort you put into something, you want to make sure that there's a valuable turnout and that it's paying off. So you put an effort to help your team, whatever job you're at, or you put an effort to make your life more efficient so you're at work at a decent time, or so you're getting along with your boss, or doing something to impress your boss so you can get that promotion you've always wanted. Make your efforts feel valuable. Don't just do it because a good example is if you work in an office and you clean the car and you clean like everyone's desk, that's great. But if no one notices, it's not going to move you up in the company and nobody cares. That effort that you're putting in is not super valuable. Now if it is, and you're the only one that does it, perfect. But make your efforts valuable, and to do great work you need to feel that you're making a difference. And you should feel an urgency for this too. Wherever you're at in life, you should feel an urgent to make a difference and to change your life. Now obviously it's going to take a while, but urgent as in the best time to change is right now. The second part that I have in Rework is decisions are progress. So think about this for a second. Decisions are progress. So think about this for a second. When you put off decisions, they pile up, and piles end up ignored, dealt with in haste, or thrown out. As a result, the individual problems in those piles stay unresolved. Whenever you can swap let's think about it for let's decide on it, commit to making decisions. Don't wait for the perfection solution. Decide and move forward. You want to get into the rhythm of making choices. When you get into that flow of making decision after decision, you build momentum and boost morale. Decisions are progress. Each one you make is a brick in your foundation. You can't build on top of, well, I'll decide later, but you can build on top of done. The problem comes when you postpone decisions in the hope that a perfect answer, and it won't. You're as likely to make a great call today as you are tomorrow. So think about that for a second. You can't build on top of will decide later, but you can build on top of done. So think about that for a second. Now, when you think about that, we'll decide later, but you can build on top of done. Honestly, when it comes to deciding later on things, you don't grow from that. And isn't that crazy how you don't grow from that? And on done, when the decision's done and made, you can find out the outcome of that decision, and then you can build on top of that, or if it was a bad decision, you can find a way to rebuild on top of that. Because when it comes to decisions, it's like deciding to get out of your comfort zone. So like that restaurant you always wanted to try, but you were afraid to go by yourself, and you decide, well, I will decide it this time, then you put it off for another time. And then another time, then it ends up being like, you know what, I won't go, who eats by themselves anyway? Yeah, I'll try this restaurant when I get the chance to. Now the reason I bring up eating at a restaurant by yourself is you don't have to make it a routine, but maybe just try it. Just every week, or when you go out, just go to a restaurant by yourself, and you might get some eyes that are looking at you and judging you, being like, why is he by himself? But honestly, if you go by yourself, that's a pretty big step. There are people who can't go to eat at a restaurant by themselves. There are people who cannot do a fun activity by themselves. They always need somebody. And you're probably wondering, why is that so much? Why does that show that you're strong? Why is that important? Because it shows that you're willing to get uncomfortable and you're willing to be by yourself and still have a good time. Because a lot of the people that accomplish big things in life do it. I mean, they have a team and everything, but they literally do it by themselves. They like get that team together by themselves. They get the connections and the marketing all done by themselves. They get the connections by themselves. They don't really wait for people. And then when they give speeches or when they write books, they present them by themselves. Ideas or sell to other people, they do it by themselves. So that's the thing. Doing anything by yourself is a very good way to start getting uncomfortable. So think about that. Now, when you put off decisions, they pile up, and piles end up ignored, dealt with in haste, or thrown out. See, the piles get ignored, dealt with in haste, or they get thrown out. So when you struggle to make decisions and you continue to put them off, they will get thrown out or they will be dealt with in haste. So if you're watching right now and you're deciding on doing something by yourself or getting out of your comfort zone, just do it. It's probably not, I mentioned this in my other videos, it's probably not horrible and it's probably not that hard, because if you really think about it, that's like the big thing though. Going to a restaurant and eating by yourself is not that hard. I mean, it's hard, but the actual activity, the actual task is not that hard. You sit down, you eat, you read something on your phone, and you talk to your waiter or waitress, and then you leave. It's like a 30-minute process. So just think about that. Because making decisions, part of the decision you're making is very little. But think about that. Your decisions will pile up, and we can decide on, and we cannot build on top of we'll decide later, but you can build on top of done. So think about that. Alright, now the third and final part of rework is who cares what they're doing? Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? So think about that. Listen to what I have here. In the end, it's not worth paying much attention to the competition anyway. Why not? Because worrying about the competition quickly turns into an obsession. What are they doing right now? Where are they going next? How should we react? Every little move becomes something to be analyzed, and that's a terrible mindset. It leads to overwhelming stress and anxiety. The state of mind is bad soil for growing anything. It's pointless exercise anyway. The competitive landscape changes all the time. Your competitor tomorrow may be completely different from your competitor today. It's out of your control. What's the point of worrying about things you can't control? Think about that right there. What's the point of worrying about things you can't control? Focus on yourself instead. What's going on in here is way more important than what's going on out there. When you spend time worrying about someone else, you can't spend that time improving yourself. Focus on competitors too much, and you wind up diluting your own vision. Your chances of coming up with something fresh go way down when you keep feeding your brain other people's ideas. You become reactionary instead of visionary. You wind up offering your competitors' products with a different coat of paint. If you're planning to build the iPhone killer or the next Pokemon, you're already dead. You're allowing the competition to set the perimeters. You're not going to out-Apple Apple. They're defining the rules of the game. Rules. You need to redefine the rules, not just build something slightly better. Don't ask yourself whether you're beating Apple or whoever's the big boy in your industry. That's the wrong question to ask. It's not a win or lose battle. Their profits and costs are theirs. Yours are yours. If you're just going to be like everyone else, why are you even doing this? If you merely replicate competitors, there's no point to your existence. Even if you wind up losing, it's better to go down fighting for what you believe instead of just imitating others. So I know that was a lot, but go down fighting what you believe in. Do that different thing and try to beat your competitors or just compete with them and focus on you. Because worrying about the competition quickly turns into an obsession. When you become obsessed with something, that's all you're focused on. If all you're focused on is your competition, then you're gonna be stuck for a very long time. And you're gonna be miserable. Because you can't outbeat, you can, but sometimes they'll make more money and then sometimes you won't make as money, or they'll go down a little bit and then you'll make a lot of money and it'll just be back and forth. And focus on competitors too much and you wind up diluting your own vision. That's the other thing. You don't focus on your vision. You don't focus on where your company or where your business is going or where your life is going. And I really like what it said. Spend time worrying about someone else. You can't spend that time improving yourself. That's a good one. But what's the point of worrying about things you can't control? Think about that. What is the point of worrying about things you can't control? Because you can't control it. It's out of your reach. You cannot do anything with things you can't control. It's like when a girl doesn't text you back. Obviously you're upset. You can be upset, but you can't worry about it. And you're probably wondering, well, why? Because for one, it's out of your control. But yeah, it's out of your control. You can't just see her. You can't just call her. I guess you could call her. But the point is, just don't worry about it. Just let it go and wait for her to text you back. And if she doesn't, move on to somebody else because you can't control it. You're there. It's just you and the phone. You cannot control what she's doing or why she's not texting you back. And even in your business, you can't control what the other person's doing because you should be spending most of your time focusing on yourself. So think about that for a second. And if you wind up losing, it's better to go down fighting for what you believe in instead of just imitating others. And you can't really replicate your competition. You can try, but it's usually you find out what works for you and what works for your business. It's like with bodybuilders, for example. You can eat like them and train like them, and you might not end up as big as them just because what they do works for them, or it just might be too much for them. So you do not want to replicate your competitors. But overall, I want to thank you for sitting with me through this book review. I have a lot of energy, and I'm supposed to be in bed in like the next 30 minutes, so I wanted to knock this out. But I do have a lot of energy. I want to thank you all for watching, and the ending, not the ending, but the takeaway for this video is don't worry about things you can't control. Whatever you got going on throughout your day, do not worry about things you can't control. Do not do it at all. But I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a great day. And this was a pretty basic book, but this is Rework. I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope you read this book. Thank you.